Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, God bless his soul and grant him peace, and Khadijah, Aisha, Hafsa, all of his wives, Maryam, they were confident. All of the people around him could go to him and feel that the love went both ways. He didn't shame, he was emotionally safe. And this, dear brothers and sisters, is peak masculinity and femininity. So repeat after me. It's not cognitive dissonance, contradiction, or duality. It's nuance and magnetic polarity. Neither outside or inside of creation. So often we will get into these debates and theosophical discussions. If you're Ashri, which the majority of Aqidah falls, Muslims Aqidah falls under. If you're Maliki, which a lot of more Western Muslims follow, or in terms of fiqh. And if you are also under Tazkiyah or Tariqah, a murid, a student, I'm literally murid. That is the path that I follow spiritually. However, regardless of what you claim, there is this understanding, this way of understanding, this nuance, where we would say, for instance, when it comes to time and space, that Allah is not subject to time and space, but He's not other than that as well. And this is what we call nuance. That Allah is not the names, the divine names, or people are not the divine names, but we are not other than the divine names as well. Okay? Ultimately, Allah is neither outside His creation, Allah is neither within His creation nor other than the creation. That is it in a nutshell. But after talking so much yesterday about my child's questions on who is Allah, what he was asking is Allah question mark. Is Allah a person? Who is Allah? Like he was getting frustrated. Like, come on, what is this about? And that is how we I didn't tell him this. If you want to know what I told him, you can go back to last live. But what I would describe to an adult is that Allah is not the creation nor other than the creation. And this includes time and space. Time and space are also creation. This is our way of staying in the safe zone, because we can be in danger whether we deny or affirm some things. So this is our way of really staying within the truth. And the last time I mentioned knowing the self means knowing our Lord. The one who knows themselves knows their Lord. And this was using the mystery box story time. This was an analogy or example comparing this whole saying for understanding experiential knowledge of the heart. This lunchbox, beat up, big old cube-shaped lunchbox with a bunch of question marks on it that children at this pre-K take home every day and get to put an object in and 3 hints about what the object is. So the parallel or the comparison is how often these texts, right, religious texts, also some more man-made texts such as even science, history, and so on, give us these hints in terms of looking within. So what I didn't say was that when my toddler first walked in, he said, I have a Tesla. And this is also an example of a comparison of real life where people say, I have a heart, I have light, or I follow a light, right? Muhammad sallallahu being a light. I have faith, or whatever you want to say in that regard. And you can put 1 + 1 together to get 2. For instance, with a child, children don't have filters. My kid loves cars, so 1 + 1, he has a Tesla, he probably has a car in that mystery box. So you don't even have to see it or hear what is inside the mystery box, aka the heart, aka Allah, where Allah is. Allah tells us, and the meaning of it is in Hadith Qudsi, that the heavens and the earth cannot contain me, but the heart of my believing servant contains me. And this is to say the knowledge of Allah is contained within the heart. And it's not the item like the book knowledge so much as the ma'rifa, which is experiential. And so if we were to do this whole comparison of the mystery box being the heart, are you with me? My kids' mystery box that the kids get to take home every day and put an object in with 3 hints inside. The hints get taken out, the teacher reads the hints, okay? We have our text, we have our text, our science text, we have our history text, we have our revealed texts that are the actual word of the divine itself. And so we have these hints that point us back to the actual container, right? Going back to that Hadith Qudsi. Not in the sense of being limited or confined. Allah is not confined to anything. But in the sense of Allah's knowledge being carried in a way that is so immense, so intense, that not even the mountains, not even the heavens or the skies can contain them, but our hearts can contain them. So when we think about it in that context, that our hearts can contain this knowledge of Allah, how do we access that? Through hints, otherwise known as signs, evidences, verses, lessons. These are all names for ayah, signs. Signs. Sorry, I had this song stuck in my head, I'm sorry. But it's just a matter of using those text hints to look within with what we already know. Understanding human nature. Understanding our own personal natures. If I, Maryam, know that I am weak, I, Maryam, know that I am a sinner or I'm missing the mark. If I, Maryam, know all of these things that would make me fall short, and yet I still witness Allah's covering over me, people, situations, seeing me in a certain light, what am I to think of my Creator? Are you following me? What I want to talk about, though, really today, this is just really recapping last time, is emotional safety. It's not a mystery when you grow up hearing and seeing your father, your mother, or paternal impactors, maternal impactors, they don't even have to be biological, displaying emotional safety. When you see this in even texts, for instance, I don't know that there is a word in the Quran for stepfather. And the Prophet ﷺ was a stepfather before he was a biological father. And this is to say that he still gave an abundance of emotional safety. He was best friends. We're defining emotional safety being a confidant, someone that you can go, others can go to, not just your people, like your friends, your wife, your children, but anyone would come to the Prophet ﷺ talking about any given topic. It could be as mundane as their dog, as their pet dying, like a kid. I believe there was a story of a child's pet passing away, and the Prophet ﷺ said, "I'm helped bury it." And it could even be something as personal as periods. And this is how we know how to cleanse ourselves, is because he would talk to Aisha, he would talk to other women about these things and these matters, and how to be clean, and how to purify ourselves, and how to live in the most excellent of ways and manners that respects the environment, respects our bodies, respects those around us. So this is the meaning of a confidant. When others can go to you and have emotional safety, they can come to you as a trusted advisor, a trusted friend from the beginning, not just in a certain situation where you're in power outwardly, but even in his days where he was less empowered, and vice versa. Sometimes people switch up. Sometimes people are best friends with you until they get power, and then it's like they don't know you. But this wasn't the Prophet ﷺ. Even for his enemies, okay? Even for his enemies, like Hind and her husband, Abu Sufyan, and these people, in the end, they could go to the Prophet ﷺ as well. They also could consult him and receive consolation from him, being that they did accept Islam in the end. Everyone did, because they conquered Mecca, that was what it was. But I see this coercive vibe to a lot of the ways that we are carrying ourselves, even myself included, Coercive meaning like compulsion, like forceful, right? And we know this is a name only for Allah. Some of the attributes are only for Allah. The names of Allah are only for Allah. We humans are not to aspire to being al-Jabbar, the forceful. And Allah tells us in the Quran, La ikraha fi din, there is no force in religion. قَدْ تَبَيْنَ الرُّشْدُ مِنَ الْغِيِّ, that He has already made distinct guidance or uprightness from being astray. And whoever has grasped onto the rope of Allah has grasped the most trusty handhold. So what I'm saying here in English, okay, like real English, is that if you are thinking about Shahada, whether you're giving it to someone or whether you're taking it, do not let yourself be coerced, because I will say it is wiser, okay, it is wiser for you and that person that they have full readiness before doing something as grave as that. Not grave, but like something is serious, we'll say. It's better that they not take Shahada than to take Shahada and then leave, or to take Shahada and then take it back. And I mean, I thankfully that's not happened to me. I've never given Shahada when it's happened to me, but I've seen it to people that were close to me or that maybe were influenced by me, where I've had these conversations and so on and encouraged them, and they went somewhere else like the mosque, or they did it even on their own, and then later on I found out, oh well, and I'm like practicing, Allah knows best how they will die, what they will die on. Allah protects, Allah knows the state. Because again, the Shahada is more than just words too. When you think about it, like in the grave, it's our state, our how that's going to speak for us, not the lips. It's our state. Who's your Lord? Who's your messenger? What is your book? Like, this is what the angel will ask. We need to have it. This Islam, a state of peace, a state of surrender, is something that we must automatically feel, like embody, basically. We're gonna have to embody it. It's if you know, you know. So the thing is, with emotional safety and the Shahada, I know our prophets, like we said, are taught that they are like newborns. When you have someone that takes a Shahada, they are like newborns. Do you really want that responsibility? Are you ready for that responsibility? I am thankful that I've only done one Shahada, and it was this year. I've only given one Shahada. Allah bless them. And it was a middle school friend of mine who just out the blue called with all this grief. And I'm not saying I'm the prototype when it comes to being confidant, not at all. But I am confident and I'm comfortable with giving this individual Shahada in the context of emotional safety that not only they felt, but their mother was constantly saying, you need to call Maryam, you need to talk to Maryam. That's what they said there. She's always telling them that. And I mean, just like really dark-skinned, ebony middle school. Like it was me, him, and two other black boys in our middle school. And I haven't talked to him in years. But out the blue, he reaches out and he's telling me all these things happening. His sister passed away, his wife just up and left him, and so on and so forth. And, he wanted to read Quran. He wanted to take his Shahada. He was clear about it. And so I gave him the Shahada. And that's, again, the first and only. And even that, I'm like weary of, because I already got a kid. I don't need another newborn. And that's what a Shahada is. You are then essentially responsible for that revert to feel supported, whether it's guiding them to other people to support them, help them in their journey, guiding them to resources and texts and so on. And like, it's one of those things you don't want to push. Islam is not a car to be sold. It's not a contract to be signed, and then set and forget. It's an ongoing process. Even for ourselves, that self-awareness, that constant recommitment to this way of life, okay? A lot of us want to wake up and choose violence, and I'm not mad at it. Like, whether it's physical or more emotional. And this is what I mean by it being a jihad of the nafs, jihad of the ego. It's a big responsibility just for one person, just for my own soul, let alone giving Shahada to someone else. So these are things to think about, whether we're giving Shahada, whether we're thinking about taking it. That's not to discourage it at all, but be sure, be as sure as you can be. Don't let anybody force you, and know what the responsibilities are in the situation where you are tasked with initiating it, when you're tasked with really helping someone through it and facilitating it. So Allah tells us that the skies, the heaven and the earth can't contain him, but the heart of the believer does, in Hadith Qudsi. It's not a mystery when we know our nature. Emotional safety is not a mystery when we grow up seeing paternal and maternal impactors speaking to one another as best friends. It's not a mystery when we know that the Prophet did not make distinctions between his bio children and his stepchildren. He did not make distinctions between the beggar and the rich. He did not make distinctions between the black and the white, in so much as that God consciousness, which is unseen in the heart, only Allah sees. And that's emotional safety, being a trusted confidant. He did not make distinctions in terms of men and women that came to him for guidance, and he did not make distinctions in terms of himself. Now this is peak masculinity here. Femininity, masculinity, one-on-one, peak emotional safety. When he could go to Khadijah, Allah be pleased with her, and confide in her, even as the top confidant, he was still able to confide in others. He was still able to have the security enough to be not only an advisor, but a friend. Not only a friend, but an advisor. So you see that there was this overlap of roles in terms of how he approached even those that he was a confidant to. Khadijah being number one. Like, no questions asked. She was the most beloved of the Prophet. And no one would know. That's the beauty, is that even those that weren't even that close to him, he had them questioning, like, legit, do you love me the best? Because that's how that was his adab. That's how he made people feel. He gave that safety, like, hey, I'm good here. He must have, how secure do you have to be in yourself to make others feel that secure? People were secure in the Prophet's presence to the point that people that weren't even that relevant to him were asking, like, who do you love the most? Confident that he was going to say themselves. Because he didn't ever make anybody feel irrelevant. He didn't ever make anybody feel unsafe in the way of being forceful or in the way of being overbearing, right? So this is the beauty of emotional safety, peak masculinity, peak femininity as well, because Khadijah radiallahu anha was a confidant. When the love goes both ways, like she let him come. She wrapped him, not just literally in a cloak, but in her presence. Where it's like, you're good. Like, I'm not gonna go run this, I'm not gonna spin the block and then like come back and like, I'm not gonna throw this in your face. I'm not gonna betray you with this sensitive information, this vulnerability that you have and that you're capable of sharing. Peak emotional safety, peak masculinity and femininity. They were best friends, Khadijah and Muhammad, but it wasn't limited to her. We can go on and on talking about how they were confidants, how they, Khadijah and Muhammad, God bless his soul and grant him peace, were trusted advisors and friends to one another. He could run to her in the most crazy making time of his life, seeing Angel Jibreel, having to explain this to her. He could get advice to go then to her uncle, correct me if I'm wrong, and feel secure that, hey, this is a safe space. This is not going to be something that's thrown in my face. This is not a vulnerability or something that's going to make me feel like less than. But actually, it builds me up, because that's what she told him. She said, it's going to work out. This is the essence of it. Because you are trustworthy. You take care of the poor. She was building them up. She hyped them up. In a time where some people would throw it in his face and say, oh my gosh, get up. Some people, astaghfirullah, Allah forgive. Some people would scoff at it. Some people would not even let him go to the mountain in the first place to do these contemplations. Would maybe even fake and pretend and say something quickly just to, get him to calm down, but then in their hearts be like, yeah, kind of crazy. Now Khadijah, when she spoke, she meant it, and she showed it with her action. How she was the rock behind Islam's initial establishment. Khadijah. SubhanAllah. There's so many layers. Just the fact that she was a rich woman, powerful woman, that could get to your head. There's a reason that the risk sounds like risk. Okay, Khadijah had that. She had risk. She had provision. She had children. She had money. She had power. She had status. She had a business. Okay, she had a reputation. She had the family. She had all of that, the legacy, the lineage. And that's a risk for a lot of people because it starts to get to our head. It starts to kind of blur our vision where we're seeing things in terms of haves and have-nots. Not Khadijah. She was clear-sighted in seeing the Prophet for what he truly was and who he truly was, and advising in a way that was on point. She didn't just call to herself. She brought him back to his own character, reminding she was a dhikr. And she also referred him to a relative of hers who was wise, this Christian waraka. And so this is a confidant, this is an advisor, this is a trusted friend. And the love went both ways, of course. She could confide in him, she learned from him. She was the first to take the Shahada from him. Okay, she believed in him. If I'm not mistaken, Allah forgive me. I really need to refresh. But I do know that she was one of the first, if not the first, to take the testimony of faith. She was that woman. And the Prophet ﷺ was that man. And together they both, within themselves, embodied emotional safety. They both embodied peak masculinity and femininity through these qualities of being emotionally trustworthy, emotionally safe and secure. First within themselves, showing that they were secure enough to hold space for one another and others, many, many others, but also for one another. Because often that's lost on us too. A blind spot for a lot of great da'is, a lot of people calling to Islam, a lot of people doing interfaith work and good work, social work in general, is that the home can get neglected. Or there can be this sense of selflessness where we're losing the barakah, right? Of keeping that security, that confidence of our family, of our close loved ones, being there for them emotionally, mentally, physically, that quality time, as well as financially, and so on. So to wrap up here, it is a huge amana, it's a huge responsibility that we carry right here in our chests. Going back to that Hadith Qudsi, this is the only place that the knowledge of Allah can be contained in the end. Not the books, not even the other teachers and so on. I mean, maybe they have it, but it starts here. And that's not like the Murji'ah, like saying it's all here, but this is where it starts. Don't let anyone coerce you into something that only Allah can put there. It's wiser to be ready than to be compulsed, or to be coerced, to be kind of prematurely pushed into taking a testimony than not at all. Tomorrow isn't promised, so remember that, believe that. And also understand the essence of the Prophet ﷺ, God bless all granted peace, is emotional safety. It's not just peak masculinity, it's peak femininity. He had Khadijah in his heart, he loved her more than anyone, but he had others too. Aisha, what level of security and peak masculinity is just peak humanity, period. Security you have to hear from someone younger than you significantly, and not shame them, but to actually affirm them and encourage them in preserving your tradition. Aisha is the #1 preserver of prophetic tradition. He didn't compete with her. He didn't tell her, oh, just settle down, just sit down. He didn't feel threatened when she teamed up with another wife, Hafsa, and they were besties, her and Hafsa. And together, Hafsa, which literally means preserve, her and Hafsa were the main people preserving prophetic tradition, preserving the Quran, spreading the Quran, teaching the prophet's path. So that being said, Allah in peace. And he was not threatened in the least by this. He encouraged it. He promoted it. He understood the assignment, and he was the embodiment of true character. May Allah bless us all to have this peak masculinity and femininity embodied. May Allah allow us to hold space first for our own homes, our own families, our own communities, and also to extend that outward. May Allah allow us to be emotionally safe and secure enough to be trusted confidants, trusted advisors, trusted friends. And may Allah allow, there's the prettiest red bird over here, which you guys can see, sorry, I'm so sidetracked. May Allah allow this to extend to all creation. And, may blessings be put on the prophets like that being said and his family and his companions, all of them. Until next time, please take care of yourselves, take care of your family, and get your barakat, sis. Salam.